The anticipation for better times ahead is palpable across the country. Lunar New Year in Melbourne, bringing a sense of renewal and hope, sentiments more than welcome in this pandemic-weary city. Despite the noise, celebrations are again muted this year, COVID-19 forcing many events to be cancelled, from the CBD to the suburbs.
Previous years we've had around about 60,000 to 100,000 people show up, and during COVID, that's not really a good thing.
Postponing Box Hill's festival, the obvious choice given soaring case numbers. Organising it in the first place, difficult enough.
I think we made 200 calls in one day asking for potential food vendors, and 70% of them came back bankrupt, like they were gone.
It's a familiar tale for many small businesses, not just in Melbourne. But this area happens to be in one of the nation's most marginal federal electorates. Just a handful of votes could decide the fate of Chisholm, currently held by the Liberals.
The vibe right now is day to day, right? You survive it and you win, right?
Stephen Zeng owns a number of restaurants in the area. One of his chefs died during the pandemic.
My first concern is the health of my family, my community. The second concern would be getting back to the normal way of life.
Carving out a new business model, lacking one basic ingredient.
Now out of lockdown, but with case numbers so high, it's still very difficult in terms of finding staff that wants to work in this kind of environment.
Stephen Zeng's not expecting more financial support from governments, but he's hungry for a coherent plan to help ensure his businesses can survive into the future.
Which is easier said than done. That's why these people are the leaders, right? They have to come up with the solutions.
Right now, there's literally nothing for these shop owners, and a lot of them are going out of business.
Like Stephen Zeng, Richard Shee grew up in Box Hill and says businesses which have served the area for 2 decades are closing their doors.
It's a very, very sad time.
He insists support can't solely be the responsibility of the states and territories.
We live in Australia, we live in Victoria, we do business in the city of Whitehorse. I think it's a team effort, and there just needs to be some help for the small guys.
And while the economic toll of the pandemic is providing food for thought ahead of the election, the social cost is just as high, albeit less visible.
There's a huge increase of demand on our services, particularly for our family violence and elder abuse victim survivors.
The debate over family violence and the treatment of women more broadly has been one of the biggest political and social debates during the last term of Parliament. While welcoming the attention, those on the front line aren't entirely convinced real solutions are in the offing.
I think people are well-meaning, but it can appear to be very knee-jerk sometimes.
More funding always welcome, but better planning is key.
For those of us who have had first-hand experience of family violence, either ourselves or people that we love, or those of us who work in the family violence sector, definitely would be a vote changer in some way, but also because it is so emotive.
A world away from suburban Melbourne, Tasmania's picturesque Tamar Valley's been shielded from the worst of pandemic restrictions. But David Feldheim's vineyards have suffered in the past.
Most people don't get that smoke from bushfires can ruin a whole crop.
He lives in the ultra-marginal electorate of Bass, which the Liberals need to hold on to, protecting his family business so his kids can be the next generation of winemakers front of mind at the ballot box.
It's just shocking. The complete lack of response to the bushfire approach and to the whole ogre of climate change, which I see as a farmer on the front line.
1,600 kilometres away in Brisbane, in the marginal Labor electorate of Griffith, Noam O'Reilly's on the hunt for a new house.
I've been a renter for 10 years now, and during the 10 years I've lived in 9 different places.
The home she currently rents is being sold by its owners.
I assume because the market is doing so well at the moment. This property sold for $610,000 in 2018, and it's now valued at 1.2 to 1.5 million.
After losing her job during the pandemic, Noam went back to university. Finding an affordable place to live while juggling work and study proving incredibly tough.
You're overhearing conversations where people are offering to pay 3 months rent in advance or hundreds of dollars over the weekly asking price just to secure a property.
Searching for accommodation and policies from the nation's leaders.
I think there's probably a problem with how we're discussing housing affordability and the divide that's created, the us versus them, landlords versus tenants, millennials versus boomers, if you like.
As the drumbeats of the election grow ever louder, the pandemic has brought some perennial political issues into even sharper focus.
2022 is the year of the tiger, an animal which symbolises strength, power and leadership, all traits that our political leaders will be hoping the public see in them during the campaign. But they'll have to wait until election day before they find out just how the nation has roared. Matthew Doran, ABC News, Melbourne.